gonna take some time to do the things we never had.
So, y'all are a little excited for the Pathfinder video game, huh? And I'm right there with you. Dragon's Demand is really high up there on one of the games I'm most looking forward to in the next year or two. We have no idea exactly how long development time is going to be, but I'm gonna guess quarter 3 or 4 2025. But let's be real, Expedition 33 is at the tip top of games I'm most excited for. But you're not here for Nonat's most excited games list, maybe. No, you're here for what I put in the title. I want to talk about 5 things that I'm pretty sure most of us want to see in Pathfinder: The Dragon's Demand. We're already super excited over everything they've announced. 16 playable classes, 7 ancestries, plays up to level 8, 12 recruitable party members with their own backstories and side quests, all of that good stuff we're all so pumped for. But because we are gamers, both video game and TTRPG, we always want more, don't we? So here's 5 things I really want to see in Pathfinder: The Dragon's Demand in no particular order. They're listed 1 through 5, but 5 is not necessarily any more wanted than 1. Actually, that's not true. 5 is the most wanted thing for this entire game by a very large margin compared to the other 4. But before the list starts, I do want to say if you're watching this video the moment it comes out or within a few hours of it coming out, I am live on Twitch right now doing a collab with another Pathfinder 2e content creator, Runia the Witch. As far as I'm concerned, Runia is like the #1 expert on Pathfinder lore. They have been streaming Pathfinder lore streams explaining and talking about and answering questions about Pathfinder lore. Now, we're not going to be doing that today. No, we're going to be blasting people in Gunfire Reborn, one of my video game hyperfixations right now. I love this game. But if you want to come on by, hang out with us, chat, enjoy the game, and even ask a Pathfinder question or two, come on over. We'd love to have you. We'd love to talk Pathfinder with y'all, or just chat about life and Gunfire Reborn. There's a link at the top of the description that'll take you right to the stream. Thank you for listening and letting me sponsor myself. Let's get to the list. Coming in at number 1. Okay. Mercenaries. This has become a staple of modern-day CRPGs. Yes, you always get to make your own custom main character, and sure, there are always a bunch of recruitable companions, and you might want to play with them, but for certain min-maxers or playing on the hardest difficulties, a lot of people like the freedom to be able to make their own custom companions. Sure, they don't come with stories and backgrounds and side quests, and honestly, who doesn't want to put Fumbus on their team? But maybe you want to play through the story mode with you and the rest of your actual Pathfinder campaign party members. Mercenaries have been in both of Owlcat's Pathfinder games. They were in Baldur's Gate 3. They're really common to be able to create your perfect ideal team composition at the sacrifice of less story interaction. And for some people, that's totally worth it. I think the game would be remiss not to include a mercenary system, especially because the entire system for creating a character is already going to be there when you make your primary hero character, so why not just implement it into an optional option, that's redundant, to make up to 3 more completely custom characters. Sure, they won't interact with the story, but they will be your characters through and through, and a lot of people care about that more. Yes, it's been announced that there are 12 recruitable companions throughout the story, but there's 16 playable classes, which means if there is no mercenary system, there is no way to have your preferred team composition, especially if each of those 12 companions are a different class, which they probably will be. That means 4 of the classes are going to be left out of companions, and if your character overlaps a class with an existing companion, that is 4 full classes that you are never going to see in your playthrough. So fingers crossed we get mercenaries so everybody can play with the exact party composition they want to use without being forced to use that champion companion. If they don't like the companion, but that companion is the only champion, then yeah, they might want to make their own champion as a mercenary they can hire instead of using the pre-written one. Alternatively, give us the option to respec characters into whatever class we want. That would be super fun, just like they do in Baldur's Gate 3. Yes, I made Gale a fighter. What about it? Number 2. Multiplayer. How much is there to even say on this topic? We want to play these games with our friends. More games are played multiplayer than single player in modern day video gaming, and that's just a fact. Multiplayer games will always perform better than single player games. Yes, people enjoy their single player experiences, but it's nice to have a single player option and a multiplayer option. Sure, a lot of people will argue, well, oh, it takes away from the story if you play it with someone else. Well, yeah, but let that be our decision to make. You know, if I want to play the game multiplayer and have it make a little bit less sense in the story, but I get to share the experience with my friend, then yeah, that's totally worth it to me. Me and my friend in the past have basically forced some single-player games to be multiplayer because we enjoy it so much. We made Yakuza Like a Dragon multiplayer thanks to Parsec, not a sponsor, but I really like this program. I wouldn't even mind if it just came down to them being forced, quote-unquote, to play as one of the companions of your party. Obviously, there can't be two main characters, you can't really write a story that way, but especially if they implement the mercenary system from point number 1, then that's even better because you can make the mercenary and then give your friend control of that mercenary. Obviously, it adds a lot to development time if they need to make some sort of multiplayer infrastructure, and I get that it's not easy, but I do believe the investment of time, energy, and money would be worth it to the game's overall success. Games get so much more value and replayability when you can play them with different groups of friends. That's why Divinity Original Sin 2 did so damn well even before Larian was as big as it is today. People love sharing games with their friends. That's just the modern era of video gaming as a whole, and if this game does not have multiplayer, it's going to hold it back drastically. That's the same reason the Owlcat games never took off into mainstream notoriety. Kingmaker and Wrath of the Righteous, fantastic games in their own right, strictly single player and hard to share the experience. Three. This is going to be a nightmare to edit. Variant rules. This one I think is the least likely to happen out of all 5 of these points. Namely because the number 1 variant rule, free archetype, kind of requires the implementation of archetypes. Now, we haven't gotten any confirmation that there won't be archetypes. I think it would be super cool if there was. They'd add a lot more replayability and character customization, but it would also be a lot more feats and interactions to add into the game that don't really need to be there. But if archetypes did exist, then I would love to see the free archetype variant rule as an option for the game. Getting extra feats to give you more options in combat would be great, even if there were only like maybe 20 archetypes to choose from. You know, there's well over 100 in base game PF2. We don't need all of them. You know, we don't need pirate. But if we do get some archetypes, free archetype would be a ton of fun, especially with all the different multi-class archetypes you can take, as well as the Ancestry Paragon variant rule. It would be fantastic to get more out of our ancestries, especially if we only get to play to level 8. By default, that means you're going to get 2 ancestry feats, one at level 1 and one at level 5. Ancestry Paragon gives you so many extra feats that would allow you to really indulge in your ancestry a lot more, and I would enjoy that a ton. But also one that I think would be super fun, especially for maybe like solo or 2 party member challenge runs, would be dual class. I think doing a dual class solo challenge run of this game would be a blast. You know, playing as a fighter, wizard who has heavy armor proficiency and expert in weapons and spell slots and all of that jazz would be so much fun to make a really powerful character to try to tackle the game on your own, or maybe just with a party of 2 instead of a party of 4. Obviously, you'd still be at action point disadvantage because there's way more enemies than there are player characters, but that's sort of the fun of dual class. You're getting rid of extra actions to have more stuff you can do, or even just saying screw it and having a party of 4 dual class characters to stomp through the game would be an absolute blast. I think dual class might be the most likely we could see because it wouldn't be that hard to implement. All of the classes are already in the game, so having your character default to using the highest bonus from whatever your 2 classes are in any given proficiency shouldn't be that hard to code. I think it would add a ton of depth to the game, and again, I keep saying this word, replayability. We live in the era of replayability. If you want your game to shoot to the top of the charts, it needs to be replayable, it needs to be playable in 1,000 different ways so that people can talk about it. You know, the internet is sort of like a playground a lot of the time where everyone is sharing their personal experiences, their challenge runs, their fun ideas, their cool team comps, especially when it comes to like YouTube content, because you know I'm going to be playing and streaming the crap out of this game. Twitch.tv/no.1 I'm streaming right now if you're watching this video less than an hour after it comes out. So yeah, I think the dual class variant above all would add the most depth to this game and allow people to really customize and challenge themselves. Oh yeah, I want to do my fighter rogue solo run so I can sneak attack with expert weapon proficiency. How fun does that sound? To some of you maybe not at all, but to me very. The number after 3 is 7. This one's a pipe dream. I'm gonna say it, this one is a pipe dream. It is probably not gonna happen, but I still really want it to because I loved it in Kingmaker and Wrath of the Righteous. Give us a roguelike mode. Add some randomly generating dungeons with appropriately leveled, randomly generated enemies that give you randomly generated loot so you can fight through and level up and just play the game mechanically. Sometimes when I'm playing these games, I don't want a story. I want to roll dice, I want to deal damage, I want to get gear, I want to level up. That's all I want out of it, is just that pure carnal dopamine-inducing progression. Carnal was probably not the right word. But it's so fun, and again, just leads to so many interesting builds and experiences. You add a roguelike mode that can randomly generate the whole thing, everybody gets a different story to tell, and that's a blast. I loved streaming the Wrath of the Righteous roguelike mode a few times, and I did that a few years back. I should do that again. But doing that in Pathfinder 2nd Edition would be a blast. It's the perfect place to try out the multitude of different builds you can make in PF2. Heck, if you just wanted to play the same character, the same fighter, with 6 different weapon styles to see how they all plan out, that would be so much fun to do in a roguelike setting. You know, if you can play through start to finish in the roguelike in 5 to 10 hours, that's so replayable. That's going to get people playing this game for tens of dozens of hours. And that should be the goal these days. These days, video games are sort of a war on, I was going to say watch time, but it's whatever the video game equivalent of watch time is. The longer your game is being played, the higher your Steam charts look, the more people want to play your game. And sure, yeah, I'm adding analytics into this, but it's also just something that I think a lot of people enjoy, and that is the correct way to go about getting people to play your game longer. It's not cheating, it's not microtransactions, it's not progress limiting like mobile games and all that psychological BS. It's just making really cool game modes that can be infinitely replayed, that will make your game a staple of its era. And I think a roguelike mode is the best way to do that. There is no joke for number 5, because if you ignore all 4 of the previous numbers, you might still have a pretty decent game. But I said this in my last video, and I firmly believe if you ignore this point number 5, the game will be lost to obscurity within 12 months. And that is mod support. Let people create their own classes. Let people create some of the classes you didn't add to the game. Let people create their own unique ancestries. Let people create their own maps. Let people create their own monsters. Let people create their own adventures. Let people use your toolkit to make your game bigger. Give us the base. Give us Dragon's Demand as an example of what a good adventure looks like, level 1 to 8. That's fantastic. But give us access to everything so we can also make the games that we want to make. Mod support is everything these days. It still blows my mind that Baldur's Gate 3 waited like a full year and a half to even release their mod support on Steam, because people were modding it from day one. And a lot of people are going to shrug and say, well, if people are going to mod it anyway, why should we release it ourselves? And like, if you just release it yourselves, it's going to feel a lot more welcoming, a lot more inviting, like you are saying, yes, we give you the developer's blessing to mod this game. We want you to mod this game because we are proud of this game. And you could even go down the Neverwinter Nights path and have people able to charge for modules they have completed. Let them create their own adventures, have a small little subset. I know you're an indie company, so this will be a lot harder, but if you can have some way to verify completed adventures and their quality and say, yes, you can sell this under our like DLC or whatever, or some kind of in-game shop where you can buy new modules, let people make whole adventures and sell them for $5, $10 for like a level 1 to 5 or 5 to 10 or whatever adventure. It is the way to give your game potentially infinite life. Look at Neverwinter Nights. People still play on the multiplayer servers. People still play custom adventures. People are still making custom adventures for Neverwinter Nights. It's mind-blowing and a testament to that if you trust your community with your product and all the tools that make it work, your community will trust and love your game. I mean, as long as the game is good in the first place, but who knows how good it's going to be. I kid. I have a lot of faith in Dragon's Demand. I really am looking forward to the game. The Kickstarter does launch on the 24th. That is in like, what, 5 days? 4 days. The Kickstarter launches in 4 days. And so far still, this video is not sponsored. I should have put that. I'll put it on the screen at the beginning of the video. This video is not sponsored. This is just me talking about the game in my own opinions and wants and desires. And Ocean Studios, I hope you're listening. Not necessarily just to me, but to everybody. Listen to the community, listen to what they want, listen to what they don't want, take that to heart. I know it's easy to think you know best as a developer, but oftentimes you don't necessarily. The community knows what they want, but you also have to be sure to pick out what the actual community wants versus what the really, really loud people want. Like me. Thank you all so much for watching. I appreciate you so much. Thank you to all the members of the No Nat Ones Patreon for making all of this possible. I hope you have a wonderful rest of your day. And until next time, No Nat Ones. Mod support. Multiplayer. A roguelike mode.